Barnard House, which includes repurposing the historic house for all township administrative offices, resident services, and government and community meeting space. The Kennett Underground Railroad Park office and display room is an integral component of passive park use and preservation goals for the property. The surrounding acreage serves as a trailhead, agricultural land, open space, and a heritage park. As a courtesy to residents who requested an opportunity to receive answers to their questions about this project, the Board of Supervisors arranged this question and answer session to provide factual information regarding the campus project at the Barnard House. Public notice of this meeting was advertised in the Daily Local News on September 18, 2015. The township solicited written questions from residents and, as I said, engaged me as an independent moderator to manage the public event. The legal occupancy capacity of this room is 80 persons. After 80 persons are admitted, we're going to close the doors so we don't violate the capacity of this room. I think so far we're in pretty good shape on that matter. In order to get some sense of the number of people who might attend, the township requested an RSVP. Approximately 50 people responded, and their names appear on the printed list, which is at the reception table. I'm hoping that everyone that came this evening signed their name on that list and their address and contact information, so we have a record of your attendance. If you didn't do that, could you please locate the list and sign it and identify yourself. By the question submission deadline of September 10, 2015, 163 questions submitted by 12 residents were received by the township. Duplicate questions were combined, and questions containing lengthy commentary were distilled to question form. To help make sense of all this information, the questions were sorted into separate categories by topic. Questions from each section will be read and answered in categorical sequence. Time permitting, submitted all questions will be answered. Any unanswered questions and their answers will be available in transcript form on the Pocopson Township website. This is a single 2-hour event. As I said, we started at 7 p.m. and we intend to end at 9 o'clock p.m. And this event is limited to information about the Barnard House topic only. 90 minutes will be allocated for answering written questions that have been submitted to date. 30 minutes will be allocated to questions which have been submitted this evening and public comment by township residents and taxpayers. The following procedure will be followed. I will read aloud from the 163 pre-submitted questions. The answers will be read aloud by the Board of Supervisors in an alternating fashion. The answers were provided by consultants for the project. Where appropriate, audio, visual support, and other materials will be presented as part of the answer. The board members are reading answers to questions provided by others, and the answers do not necessarily reflect the opinions or views of a majority of the board member reading the answer, or any individual board member. Public questions and comments and the answers read will not be permitted. Public questions and comments on the answers read will not be permitted during this part of the presentation. The board will not discuss or deliberate on anything this evening, and no decision will be made regarding the project or any other matter this evening. The 30-minute comment and question period will be governed as follows. We have provided cards, which I think you saw when you came into the meeting room, for you to submit written comments and questions this evening. The name and address of the person asking the question, the resident or taxpayer, must be provided on the card. The cards will be collected during the meeting and provided to me just prior to the public comment period. Questions and comments will be treated separately. Questions will require an answer where appropriate. Public comments will not. The submitted questions will be selected at random and read by me as moderator. Questions which have already been answered will not be read or answered. During the public comment period and question section, where appropriate, the board may solicit answers from others in attendance who may have the answer to a resident's question. If a question cannot be answered during the event due to lack of available information at this time, the question will be answered at a later time and posted on the township website. By Township Resolution 2014-14, it is Pocopson's policy to allow public comment by each individual for 2 minutes only. We will follow that policy this evening. Yielding a resident's 2 minutes to another resident is not permitted. I will time the comments and ask you to terminate your comment at the end of the 2-minute allotment. There will be only one comment per resident or taxpayer, time permitting. There will be only one question per resident or taxpayer, time permitting. We are going to conduct an orderly meeting in order to provide as much information and answer as many questions as possible during the time allotted. Anyone who disrupts the meeting will be asked to come to order or leave the room. There are some printed materials containing copies of key supporting documents which will be available for attendance. We don't have many copies, but to the extent they're available, you're welcome to them. With that, I think we're ready to get started. We're going to start with the questions concerning financial impact of the project. And what we're going to do is just going to ask the board to read the answers. We all have a copy of the questions and answers in front of us, and we'll just go down and back again and keep doing it till we get through as many questions as we can. First one is, how is the project being funded by the township taxpayers?
The project's being funded by a combination of taxpayer dollars, grants, and committed donations.
Question 2, assuming this is being funded by the township, where are the funds coming from? A tax increase, the current property EIT tax receipts, or the green space tax? Sure.
Maintenance, building, stabilization, and planning studies are completed and were funded within the existing annual township budget for our facilities. Phase 1, which includes the park, bathroom, parking lot, sewage, water, and lighting, was funded approximately 50% with a non-tax-based grant and donations, the remaining by the township existing facilities budget. Phase 2, which is the building renovation, will be funded by a grant of $50,000, the remainder by a proposed loan of $750,000. The loan does not result in a tax increase. The open space tax by law is a separate tax account and cannot be used for any other purpose.
Question 3, information shared today implies a forecast of $1.2 million for the cost of the project. Based on 4,000 square feet, this equates to a build cost of $300 per square foot. This seems extremely high, especially for a commercial building. What are the realistic costs forecasted for this project?
The estimated building renovation, not including an allocation for a construction contingency, furniture, IT, security, and project management, is $450,000, as presented in the July 2015 summary on the township website. The space subject to improvements under Phase 2 contract will be 3,647 square feet for basement, utilities, first and second floors. This equates to under $125 per square foot for the renovation of an historic structure. This per square foot cost does not consider the square footage of the entire basement or the third floor, which will not be renovated in phase, but will also have insulation and window improvements when Phase 2 is completed.
Could everybody hear me without the mic?
Could you
Yes.
hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. What is the estimated cost to complete the balance of the exterior work in Phase 1 and the time for completion?
The balance due on Phase 1 contracts is $7,032 as of September 14th, 2015. Estimated time for completion is this fall.
That was actually $78,000.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right, $32. Question 5, are the monies still available in the Phase 1 budget to finish the exterior, or will it be deducted from the monies allocated to Phase 2?
The answer is yes. The 2015 budget has sufficient funds to complete Phase 1 without deducting monies from the Phase 2 loan.
Question 6, what is the breakdown by category of what has been spent and paid? I think we have a slide.
No, we actually don't have that
Oh,
slide.
we don't have that slide.
The
Sorry.
township accounting process tracks all projects in 2 categories, by professional services fees and physical improvement costs. Professional fees from all consultants paid from January 2007 through September 14, 2015 totaled $193,987. Improvement costs over the same period totaled $415,843. Professional services professional services fees paid since 2007, plus those currently approved and budgeted through Phase 2, is estimated to be under 20% of the total project improvements cost when complete. Professional fees include all pre-construction planning studies, stability phase engineering, and architect services, solicitor, grant writing, and township engineer fees for Phase 1 site design and grant application packages. The total detailed information from 2007 through September 14, 2015 is available from the township office and has already been provided to several residents through the open records request process.
Question 7 is regarding cost overruns. What have they been? What did they cost? And why did they occur? How was the cost overrun process managed?
There were no cost overruns on the project outside of the approved contract amounts and the 15% project contingency established by the township. Within this contingency, change orders that were approved through September 14, 2015 on the Phase 1 contracts total $34,349. The sum of change orders totals 7.5% of the approved contract amount for Phase 1, well within the 15% contingency. Change orders were associated with a variety of field condition changes, with a significant portion, $22,250, attributed to additional work required by PennDOT for ADA compliance at the driveways. A detailed breakout of change order item estimates are prepared by the project manager. Project change order requests are then approved or denied by the Board of Supervisors at a public meeting prior to payment being issued.
Question 8, it appears that the projected costs of the project have increased over time. Can you please explain the thought behind the change in budget? Please explain the change in project budget over time.
The question is confusing as projected cost is not the same as project budget. The project estimate has not increased over time. In the spring of 2011, an estimate of $1.3 million was publicized by the township in a brochure on the project and several newspaper articles. The large meeting room addition to the Barnard house was included in the plan. The large meeting room was later removed from the project as unaffordable. In 2012, the low bid on the construction of the revised project without the large meeting room or an allowance for contingencies was $1.07 million. 4 years later, the total estimated cost of the project for all planning, studies, stability work, and phases 1 and 2, when complete, is still approximately $1.2 billion, including contingency. After grants and donations of $341,500, either received or committed, plus the stabilization and Phase 1 work funded by the township, The remaining costs are estimated at no more than $750,000. The annual project budget changes depending on what was spent in the previous year and the projection of costs for the following years.
Question 9, what is the monthly rent to be paid by Kennett Underground Railroad Committee?
A current 5-year agreement includes the payment of 1/5 of the utility cost of the building up to $100, plus $1 per year for the first 3 years. Annually, after the 3rd year, there is a 1/5 split of utilities costs plus $1. The consideration was based on dedicated and shared space used, hours occupied, and includes separate insurance requirements for the KURC occupancy.
Question 10, since this is a taxpayer-funded project, how can all financial information be best communicated and shared with the public?
All expenses paid by the township are categorized and posted online in budget versus actual expenditures every calendar year. Throughout the year, updates of actual expenditures are provided for supervisors' review as requested and for discussion at the public Board of Supervisor meetings.
11, can an up-to-date financial cost spreadsheet, including cost overruns, be maintained on the website?
Financial spreadsheets will not be posted on the website. Costs and payments may change on a daily basis, and the misinterpretation of financial data by residents would create confusion in the community. All financial records and details on any project are collected, categorized, entered, updated, and maintained by the treasurer in QuickBooks in accordance with accepted accounting practices.
12, the Barnard House project update July 2015 referenced the need for a sewer connection to be installed from Denton Hollow to Riverside, Section 7A. Has this cost been formally estimated?
This cost was estimated to determine what the elements of improving the Denton Hollow Road Township building would be as compared to the Barnard House. The sewer connection piece of this estimate used standard engineering practices based on measured map distance of the building to the nearest riverside manhole. At a per foot installation cost from an engineering estimation manual, means construction cost, was published corrections for this area of Pennsylvania. It included a tap-in fee as charged by the sewer authority who owns the plant. The cost did not consider ongoing user fees.
13, the estimates for Phase 2 are unclear. Where did the $650,000 come from as compared to the forecast for a $750,000 loan?
The estimated cost of the remainder of the project, including furniture, IT, security, construction contingency, project management, is $650,000. The budgeted loan of $750,000 includes allowance for contingencies. The actual loan amount will be determined once the bids are received.
14, the supervisors originally stated that they would not spend more than $750,000 to $800,000 in the project. Now, why are we at $750,000 for just Stage 2 and still needing a 3rd stage to meet our needs?
The pre-bid estimate in 2011 was $750,000 to $800,000 for the project without a large meeting room add-on. Discussions with the bidders, when the low bid came in at over $1 million, suggested they incorporate their own contingencies because they were uncertain about the extent of the work, particularly the restoration of the windows. This led to the 4-window stabilization project, which in turn has altered the approach to the remaining windows and doors. Grants and donations were subsequently obtained to reduce the overall cost to the township. Phase 3 is a longer-term plan, and future boards would decide whether to proceed with it or not.
We're moving on to the second category of questions, taxes and loans. Question 1. The committee states there will be no impact on taxes because the loan will equal the former one just paid off in 2014 for the Public Works Building and Park. Have the supervisors considered this would be an opportunity to decrease taxes rather than keep the township in perpetual debt?
You want to do this one? The supervisors did not consider this as an opportunity to reduce taxes, as the cost to the continually maintain an empty and abandoned historic structure while still not having a proper township facility did not make financial sense. The choice was between a potential refund of a negligible amount to repurposing a significant relevant historic structure using a loan with no new tax impact. Supervisors clearly saw the rehabilitation of the property as a fiscally responsible path. If taxes were to be decreased by the amount of the loan payment, the average refund per household would be approximately $3.21 per month in property tax based on the average assessed residential property value. If compared to the total tax liability of the residents, including county, school, and township taxes, this amount is negligible. Supervisors saw this as an unprecedented opportunity to finally have a proper and code-compliant facility to serve our residents, employees, volunteers, and homeowners associations. While this is a 20-year loan, it is not a perpetual debt. Loans for facilities and municipalities are commonplace and are part of the meeting the needs of the population in a responsible manner.
Question 2. Was the EIT increased from .20 to .50 to assist with funding for the Barnard House? The June 8th presentation and the report from Lafayette College indicates the township is in good financial standing. Why then did the EIT need to increase by 150%?
The answer to the first question, no. The EIT was not increased to fund the Barnard House. The EIT was increased as a result of a 10-year projection of township financial obligations. Major items included emergency management services, additional staff, equipment replacement, insurance cost increases, and state-mandated clean water provisions. A public presentation, appropriately advertised, was given detailing the components of the EIT increase prior to any vote on the increase. Not one resident attended. The EIT increase was subsequently approved by all 3 supervisors.
3. Why is the committee anticipating so many additional needs in the future?
Although the township is essentially built out with respect to new large developments, regional planning groups anticipate the continued growth of the resident population throughout Chester County, including Pocopson Township. Both the county and the township comprehensive plans speak to the need for expansion of housing of diverse types, including multiple unit dwellings and senior age in-place housing. The comprehensive plan population and economic profile information provided by the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission forecast of 2012 and the U.S. Census Bureau enumerates a township population in 2010 of 4,582, estimating an increase to 5,509 by the year 2035. Our township comprehensive plan acknowledges limitations on land available for building due to terrain and open space restrictions. However, it states there is undeveloped land suitable for residential construction. An increase in population will bring increased demands for basic township services. A prudent government prepares for the impact of projected growth.
What are the suggestions for fully understanding the taxpayer's position on the project?
Any single taxpayer's position on any board meeting agenda item can be voiced during public comment period at any Board of Supervisors meeting. Any individual resident may also write a letter to the supervisors on any issue at any time.
Topic 3, grants. How many grants have been applied for and received in relation to the Barnard House?
Many grants were researched and vetted for relevance to the project, municipal eligibility and likelihood of success from 2009 and 2015. Small grant opportunities were rejected because they pertained to small pieces of a must-be-completed project within limited time frames. Every substantial construction grant opportunity applicable to a municipal historical project in Chester County was applied for from 2010 through 2015. 5 applications were made, 3 were awarded. The first grant application in 2009 was presented to Longwood Foundation. The grant was not awarded by the foundation as the project did not fit their funding goals or their belief that municipal facilities should be built with public funds. In 2010, a joint application was made with Kennett Railroad for $500,000 under the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009 to pay for clean energy, geothermal systems, insulation, windows, building stability, and climate control for the Locust Grove Schoolhouse and the Barnard House. Under this Conservation Works grant, professional energy audits were performed on the municipal buildings, gratis by a qualified professional. And the application had overwhelming support by state political leaders. The extreme competitiveness for this grant resulted in a statewide award being given to existing occupied building projects, where applicants were trying to complete their projects, not start them. In 2012 to 2013, 2 $250,000 grants were awarded for Phase 1 by 2 different state agencies. Both required township matching funds. The township accepted the grant requiring the lower 20% match. A third award, a $50,000 Keystone grant, was recently received for Phase 2 for the repair and replacement of windows and doors. All grants were awarded were for the maximum eligible amount. Kennett Railroad was also has committed over $30,000 to the completion of the project. Grants, donations, and commitments total $341,500.
Is any grant money budgeted to pay for future costs?
The answer is yes. A $50,000 grant was received for Phase 2, but is not reflected in the 2015 budget, as it was awarded after the budget was developed and approved.
Is the recent grant received a matching grant? If so, where is the money coming from? Has the percentage of matching monies been included in the financial reporting for Phase 1 or Phase 2, or is this additional money?
The recent Keystone Grant Award of $50,000 is a 50% matching grant. The award of this grant now reduces the Phase 2 cost by $50,000. The matching funds will be satisfied within the existing Phase 2 budget.
The $250,000 grant received was for park and open space modifications. What is the specific grant wording as to how the grant should be used?
The grant offering had specific line item guidelines as to what would be covered. Every item in the application which has been constructed and reimbursed by the grantor during Phase 1 was an eligible item. This included, but was not limited to, entrance-exit drives, parking lot, exterior lighting, septic, water, bathroom, foyer, stormwater management, sidewalks, ADA compliance, which was a trail, a picnic area, and building bathroom access, electric, landscaping, picnic areas, benches, and recycling area. The application included all aspects of the 2012 bid package documents that were reimbursable elements under the grant guidelines and associated with serving the Heritage Park and Trailhead. The grant reviewers rated the application as one of the highest rated in the award round.
Is it ethical to use the grant money allocated for the park to benefit the renovation of the Barnard House?
The Phase 1 grant money was used for approved purposes. Reimbursement from the state was subject to state receipt of invoices showing actual expenditures for items specified in the grant application.
What type and how much funding would be lost or gained if the Barnard House was only occupied by the KURC and not the township administration?
Not completing and occupying the total building would jeopardize existing grants and support for future grants for the township. The $50,000 Keystone grant would likely be recalled if the building is not open to the public. Also, the state would likely recall the Phase 1 $250,000 grant since it was approved with the understanding that the park would be part of a municipal campus. Our legislative leaders and county agencies have supported every grant application associated with completing this campus since 2010. Their support for future grant applications could be lost, especially if one or both of the grants was recalled.
Next topic section is utilities. What are the plans for insulation, etc.? How much insulation will be added to the roof and walls?
Insulation meets or exceeds code requirements and is consistent with the written energy audit recommendation conducted on the building. R30 insulation will be installed in the floor of the third floor. R19 insulation will be installed in the exterior walls of the rear wood frame part of the building. R19 installation will be installed in the basement ceiling.
The replacement windows or period replacements, are these thermal rated?
I'm going to take this one. The replacement windows in Phase 1 are energy efficient. The 4 restored windows on the east side retain the historic sashes and will have storm windows added as part of the Keystone grant.
The next answer, like some of the other ones, is rather lengthy, so if we want to divide it up, we'll do that.
Well, that's why it's going to take.
I'll take it.
If the Barnard House is renovated to be energy efficient, adequate insulation, double pane windows, etc., would that change the historic designation? If so, what are the consequences?
The Barnard House has been recognized by the Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission, PHMC, as eligible for the National Registry of Historic Places under Criterion A, events. The registry is the official national list of historic resources worthy of preservation. It is a recognition of historic merit and significance, but quote, places no obligations on private property owners, unquote. Benefits accrue from designation of eligibility, not from an actual listing. Many grants require eligibility for the registry for the application to be eligible for consideration. Acceptance of state and federal grants, most of which are matching, requires that any work done comply with the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating buildings. The Barnard House is designated a place, quote, where the location itself possesses historic, cultural, or architectural value, end quote, as a station on the Underground Railroad. In 2008, the house was deemed ineligible under Criterion D, architecture, due to the alterations to the structure that have impacted its, quote, integrity of materials, unquote, design or workmanship. Preservation of historic resources is further supported by the Pennsylvania History Code, Title 37, and the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code, Act 247. The Chester County Comprehensive Plan, Landscapes 2, also highlights the Barnard House Adaptive Reuse Project. Since it is eligible for the National Registry, the county also designates the Barnard House as a Class 1 resource of, quote, of critical importance to the quality of life in Chester County, end quote, and indicates, quote, Resource protection is recommended. The Pocopson Comprehensive Plan prepared in 2014 states as a goal the, quote, minimization of impacts to significant historic and scenic resources as an integral part of all land use development design, end quote, and pledges to encourage the maintenance, rehabilitation, restoration, and adaptive reuse of historic resources. In addition, the 68-acre property surrounding the house is a scenic resource as located on the Brandywine Scenic Byway that includes the immediate Route 52 viewscape. The repurposing of the Barnard House is appropriate for the property according to its designated eligibility category. To meet the requirements of the Keystone Matching Grant, the township will forward evaluations of the windows to the PHMC along with decisions on repairs or replacement for approval. If the PHMC and the township do not agree on the path forward for the windows, the Board of Supervisors may choose to rescind the acceptance of the grant. Acceptance of the grant does require periodic communication with the PHMC regarding the status of the window repair/restoration, and reimbursement will occur following detailed invoice submissions specific to the window portion of the project.
Have eco-friendly designs been built into the project plan, or are they too expensive?
Sustainable features have been designed into the plan that have been determined to be feasible and cost-effective. Features that were examined include solar water heating and photovoltaics, geothermal, window replacement, insulation, infiltration limiting devices, gray water recycling, rainwater gathering for irrigation, and use of outdoor grain bin for an additional park bathroom, including composting commodes. The cost benefit of sustainable design and technologies planned for this project will be closely evaluated during the Phase 2 building package.
Is the cost of the geothermal heating and cooling system included in the Phase 1 and/or Phase 2 cost? If not, is it cost prohibitive?
There is no geothermal system included in the Phase 1 or Phase 2 costs, as a grant could not be obtained, and such a system was otherwise too expensive. In 2010, a grant application was made which included geothermal systems for the Barnard House and the Locust Grove Schoolhouse, among other energy-efficient improvements. The award was not granted because the building would have had to have been occupied upon installation of the system. In 2014, another geothermal system grant was investigated, but it also required the building to be fully occupied upon completion of the geothermal system installation, which was not feasible. The fiscally responsible decision was made to go with a lower cost but more conventional system of propane heat. This system replaced the less energy efficient fuel oil heating system that had existed when the property was obtained. HVAC system options were examined by the MEP, which is Mechanical Electrical Plumbing Engineer. Choice and decision was supported by the architect, the Barnard House Steering Committee, and the supervisors.
The Barnard House project update references a study of the Pocopson Township, Pennsylvania office and garage facilities energy assessment by Ralph Negro, P.E., Applied Energy Group, February 2008. What was done with the results of the report, and how much did it cost?
The audits of the existing Denton Hollow Road administrative building and the Public Works garage identified many suggestions for improvements in both buildings. Some of these were implemented at costs within the facility's maintenance budget. A separate audit of the Barnard House at that time, in an unimproved condition, demonstrated less energy loss than the existing township office, while both used oil heat. The Ralph Negro study cost the township $800.
Section 5, continuing expenses. Has the committee received written cost estimates for heating and cooling?
Cost estimates for the remaining heating and cooling system for installation in Phase 2 will be completed when the construction drawings are complete. The energy audit identified that when completed, the energy used to heat and cool the Barnard House will be less than the existing township administration building. In addition, since propane heat instead of oil is more economical, and the building will be properly insulated with windows and doors replaced or made weather-tight. Heating costs will be substantially reduced from when the building was first obtained.
What is the ongoing cost for daily cleaning service for the public restroom maintenance? Has a service contract been agreed for cleaning this restroom?
Cleaning services will be contracted when the building is occupied, and cleaning services will be eliminated for the existing administration building. The bathroom cleaning portion of that cost is not expected to be different than the one proportional cost to clean the existing township building public bathroom.
What is the ongoing cost of maintenance of the Barnard House grounds and parking area?
Maintenance costs relate to mowing, exterior land maintenance, and recycling area maintenance is performed regularly now by the Public Works crew and is not expected to change or be any more intensive. The parking area underlain by an infiltration system will require periodic maintenance to prevent excess pavement clogging and the inspection of the outfalls from the system. Exterior light bulbs will require replacement when needed. Additional trash receptacles, 2 to 4, associated with the exterior park will require emptying. Maintenance of the township park system is completed by the Public Works crew. Income from leasing the property for agriculture contributes $3,500 annually to the township budget.
What is the ongoing cost for overall maintenance of the Barnard House structure?
When complete, the stone structure with new weather-tight windows and doors, insulation, floors, heating and cooling, and paint will be similar to any single-family residence of similar size for the 2 occupied floors. Ongoing maintenance and upkeep will be similar to such a home, as it was a home prior to this project. The offset of high heating, cooling, and continual repairs at the existing administration building when vacated is anticipated to make regular ongoing maintenance of the Barnard House comparable to the current existing administrative office building expenses.
Section 6, independent contractor costs and fees. What is the review process for vendor bills?
Invoices from contractors for a project such as this are reviewed by the project manager and architect, and if within the contract amount and in accordance with the contract documents, forwarded to the treasurer. The invoice is submitted by the treasurer to the Board of Supervisors at regular public meeting for approval prior to payment by the treasurer. This is essentially the same process used for all invoices. In the case of professional services, a board-approved professional services agreement, PSA, is required with an estimate prior to approving invoices against it.
Please explain Dennis Belton's role on the steering committee. Architecture fees as a percentage of project cost appear extremely high. 10% to 17% of total project cost is best practice for renovation projects. We have already exceeded this with Melton's fees to date. Does he have additional roles that we are paying for?
The role of the architect on the steering committee is the most important role to steer the planning process, make use of space, and the preservation recommendations for the building, and prepare analysis, drawings, and bid packages associated with it. His role includes the following the project through the construction phase via coordination with the project manager when needed. Melton Architects' total bills from the first involvement in 2009 through the completion of Phase 2 will be between 10 and 12% of the overall project. This includes the structural, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineers that are subcontractors of Melton Architects. Martin Architects was chosen based on a public bid and an interview process, as well as taking each interested bidder through the Barnard House. Supervisors, historical committee members, and steering committee members were involved in the interview and selection process. Melton Architect has no other professional services role in the township except this project.
Why are we paying Dennis Melton $6,300 for engineers when the township is contracted with McCormick Taylor for engineering services? Is there a conflict with township engineers performing the work?
To correct the questioner, the fee was $6,600, not $6,300. The $6,800 fee was for the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, engineering design, and bid package preparation. McCormick Taylor is a civil engineering firm and may be involved in some aspects of Phase 2, as our previous township engineer was used in Phase 1.
Is it a legal or ethical problem with Dennis Melton subcontracting with Delaware companies rather than Pennsylvania companies?
We are not aware of any legal or ethical prohibition against a contractor using subcontractors from Delaware, other than that they should be licensed to do business in Pennsylvania. It is both legal and a common practice to contract with firms in other states.
Section 7, usability and feasibility studies. When was the formal decision made to rule out the current Denton Hollow location as a township building location? Was there a study? Who prepared the estimate, and is it documented?
The decision to rule out the existing township building and property was made sometime prior to 2004 and led to discussions with the county about the donation of the Barnard house and the property for that purpose. There was no known formal study. A summary of known deficiency with the existing location was compiled by the Barnard House Steering Committee in the July of 2015 and posted on the Pocopson website. It includes an estimate by the Township Codes Officer of the cost to expand the building and make the building and the property code compliant. The summary demonstrates that even with significant expenditures, the current location will still have code deficiencies related to safety, parking, and stormwater management, as well as ongoing noise and lighting impact on the neighbors. The summary confirmed that moving the municipal services to a new location was justified, appropriate, and needed to better serve the township residents.
What is unsuitable about the current township municipal building? What benefits do the township residents derive from subsidizing the new office?
The existing township building was evaluated as total township needs became better defined, and code and safety deficiencies, space, and amenities with the existing building continued to surface year after year. Property characteristics and major deficiencies include: the existing building is on 0.86 acres. The existing building on 0.86 acres is a 1,400 square foot retrofitted garage that was built and used to house township road equipment. It's a cinder block structure built on a slab on grade. The property contains an additional barn structure for use of public works equipment storage and a recycling drop-off area. The facility does not meet ADA accessibility requirements. Heating and cooling costs are high, as the structure was not constructed for occupancy. It was constructed as a garage. Staff members find the environment conditions are often uncomfortable. The existing building is considered an uncertified building under the PA Uniform Construction Code. Access to the structure does not comply with the established standards. There is no private public restroom. The existing restroom is in the staff work area, and normal work hours offers little privacy to employees or users. Existing bathroom does not comply with accessibility requirements. Electrical wiring is lacking in some areas. Well connection runs through a planned file storage cabinet. The building lacks proper sewage facilities. The septic field is sealed off by a pavement and partially underneath the barn. Percolation capacity cannot be tested without borings. No grass space for a compliant main and backup septic field as required by ordinance. Hookup to the Riverside public sewer system would require construction of a sewer line along Denton Hollow Road to the first manhole at Riverside and would include tie-in fees and ongoing service charges. Existing office space places 2 primary part-time employees in 1 room. Conversations with members of the public or supervisors with one cannot be kept separate from the other, creating disruption of workflow and time management difficulties. The most basic private practices of an organization for the public cannot be offered. Discussions between permit applications and building code officials are in the same space as reception and all other public space. There's no private area to discuss personnel financial issues, personnel matters, or other confidential issues. A single room contains building code officer function, reception, public area, work session area, conference room, and committee session area, which produces an interference between all functions, all using the same space. Storage space is limited to existing files. Plans and records significantly encroach into the public and office areas. There is no space for additional archives currently being held by residents in the community. Parking is limited and there's no safe overflow area. Well water cannot be confirmed as potable, as well as construction, septic construction, and the distance between the two cannot be confirmed without extensive investigation. Staff and public drink bottled water. Noise associated with township activities and lighting outside the building in this residential location has been a long-time neighborhood complaint. Exterior lighting is kept to a minimum and is inadequate, which creates safety concerns with walking through the parking area while vehicles are coming and going during evening meetings. Traffic ingress, egress, including regular traffic and large public work trucks, pass within 4 to 5 feet of the building entrance. This is and has been a significant safety concern.
What will be the disposition of the current township municipal building? Could the township rent the current township office building to help defray the cost of a township office at the Barnard House?
Options may include using the building and the property for other purposes if needed, such as public works, equipment storage, or sale or lease of the building or property if not needed. The decision on the disposition of the current building and property will be made by a future board. The rental or lease of township-owned property which will not be used for township purposes or public use would need to be considered. If a future board determines it is possible, legal, and practical, the lease or sale of the property would further offset costs.
How would the expense of repurposing and maintaining the Barnard House as a township office building differ from the expense of repurposing and maintaining it for some other permitted use?
The expense of repurposing and maintaining the Barnard House for any other use would depend on the use, although the use is significantly restricted by the declaration of covenants, conditions, and restrictions. If it is not occupied by the township, the maintenance, utilities, security, and insurance expenses would continue on both the Barnard House property and the existing township office without the benefit of the use of the Barnard House.
Can the township afford the dual expenses of the Barnard House in some alternative use and the township building at a location other than the Barnard House?
A future board would need to consider the affordability of dual expenses. As there's no current plan to consider a township building in a location other than the Barnard House property, the current EIT and property taxes do not consider this type of dual expense.
Please describe the deed restrictions on the house and open space.
The declaration of covenants, conditions, and restrictions between the commissioners of Chester County and Pocopson Township are available at the Township Office or on the Chester County Recorder of Deeds website. I think there's a few copies in the back as well. In summary, Uses are restricted to township-owned parkland for publicly accessible recreation, open space, and natural resources conservation that includes the limited growing of crops in accordance with the National Resource Conservation Service provided soil conservation plan, and subject to the rights of the township to locate and operate on the property its township municipal facilities. Municipal facilities is defined as, quote, a Pocopson Township municipal building for the township governmental offices and public meeting rooms, including administrative and police, park restrooms, and park and recreation equipment storage buildings and ancillary parking facilities, subject to the requirements and limitations stated in Article 3 hereof, but excluding public works facilities and public works storage area, cellular communications towers and facilities, and water and wastewater storage and/or treatment facilities, which shall not be permitted uses of the property, excepting County of Chester wastewater facilities allowed under the terms of the agreement, and an on-site septic and water system to serve the municipal building and park restrooms. The declaration is recorded as a covenant running with the land and binds the property in perpetuity. Municipal facilities are restricted to 4% of the total acreage, or approximately 2.7 acres, and no more than 2 clusters, with the buildings, structures, and parking located a minimum of 50 feet behind the north of the historic Barnard House and set back at least 100 feet from the Wasatch Road, providing they shall not extend beyond the existing stream or headwaters that begins near the property's northeast corner and generally running south to the intersection with a branch of Pocopson Creek. Barnard House may be used for residential purposes until the building is fully converted to office use. If and when it is deemed inappropriate to utilize said property or any part thereof for such purposes, the utilization of the property shall be passive recreational uses or open space only. In Article 4, enforcement of this declaration states, the County of Chester shall have the right and power to enforce these covenants, conditions, and restriction by any proceedings at law or in equity against the declarant, or any person or persons violating or attempting to violate any provisions of this declaration of covenants, conditions, and restrictions, to restrain violations, to require specific performance, and/or to recover damages.
Can a new township building be built on the 68 acres the township was given along with the Barnard House?
Due to the restrictions set forth in the declaration, this may not be possible. The township engineer would have to conduct an evaluation to be sure of that.
Can the house be sold to either a private party or a 501c3 organization?
There is no specific provision prohibiting the conveyance of the property, but the conveyance to a private party or a 501c3 would be inconsistent with the permitted municipal facilities uses. The declaration provides that if the municipal facility uses are deemed inappropriate, and the property can be used only for passive recreation and/or open space.
What are the deed restrictions on leasing part of the house or the open space?
There are no specific restrictions on leasing, but any lease provision should be consistent for uses permitted by the declaration.
Where are the plans and bids to support the option of building a completely new facility on the Barnard House property?
Space and impervious area restrictions on the 2.7 acre area for the existing and future buildings would likely require the demolition of the Barnard House in order to construct additional buildings. It was evident that such a formal exercise to prepare expensive plans and bids, such an option, would be a waste of taxpayers' money when knowing that the final cost of both the demolition and the rebuild would exceed the interior renovation of the existing sound and historic building.
Where are the documents showing the evaluation of township space needs, including all township-owned parcels?
The document prepared by Milton Architects in 2009 and cited in the July 2015 summary addressed administration space needs and was revisited in June of 2015. Other township-owned property is in use for purposes that include public works building, township park, and current municipal building. Further evaluations were deemed unnecessary with the existence of a usable structure on the Barnard House property.
Did the township look at exercising their right to eminent domain?
The township has the power of eminent domain. The question is not clear whether it is addressing condemning other properties or whether it was directed at the current property. Subject to certain limitations, the township may have the right to condemn other property, including other real estate interests such as easements on the subject property, but the township could not condemn an easement to which it is a party.
The June 15th report states the Board of Supervisors have periodically evaluated the township facilities. Where are these evaluations?
To clarify, there is no June 15th report. The July 2015 summary discusses the findings of the committee's research and evaluation efforts of the existing facilities and properties.
Have the Chester County Commissioners provided written consent for the Kennett Underground Railroad to occupy the building?
Occupancy by the Kennett Underground Railroad is an integral component of the passive recreation park use of the property and the preservation of the property due to the significant historical value. The Commissioners have attended public events on the project and have been well informed of the use of park office space for the Kennett Railroad inside and outside the building. The declaration has been interpreted by the Kennett Railroad, the township, and the county reps to meet with criteria in the declaration. No specific letter has been drafted by the Commissioners, however. It does make sense to request one. It was understood by the parties to be a complementary use of the building, not a restricted use.
Next section of questions is floor plan, space, and workflow. What is the timeline for the final floor plan? How will space be divided and allocated?
Preliminary floor plans were approved by the construction work group on August the 17th, 2015. Space allocation was based on an updated review of a space utilization spreadsheet prepared by Melton Architects in 2009. The most recent floor plans considered additional input from staff in June and July of 2015.
How does the usable township allocated square footage of the Barnard House compare to the current Denton Hollow building?
The usable township allocated floor space is on the first and second floors, plus the basement utilities areas for the township is 3,647 square feet. This area does not include stairwells, fireplaces, or interior walls. The usable space in the existing building is 1,354 square feet. The floor space for the office use, reception area, and file space only is 1,879 square feet. The existing township building contains 652 square feet of floor space used for office, reception area, and file storage. The additional 1,775 square feet of space is available on the third floor and the remaining basement area of the Barnard House, even though available for ancillary storage as is. It is not planned for renovation in Phase 2. No additional floor space is available at the existing township building. Generally, the usable renovated space in the Barnard House after Phase 2 is 3 times the space of the existing township building. A summary table of the comparison of space is available at this meeting.
How big will the meeting space, how big will the meeting space be in the Barnard House when all phases are complete?
At the completion of Phase 2, 2 meeting spaces will be provided. The main public meeting room on the first floor, not including the cutouts in the room on the east wall, is 487 square feet. Additional meeting space of the second floor conference room is 203 square feet. Both spaces are typically segregated from all staff offices, reception, and file storage areas.
What is the square footage of the second floor office space at the Barnard House compared to the current Denton Hollow building?
The second floor space for offices, workspace, and file storage at Barnard House, excluding the bathroom, kitchenette, stairwell, and hallways, is 1,451 square feet. The square footage of the Denton Hollow building office space is 652 square feet.
What is the total square footage of usable space for the township, not including KURC?
The total square footage of usable floor space for the township is 3,647 square feet, not including the KURC. Additional uses can be made of the 1,775 square feet in the basement and the third floor, although these areas are not planned for improvements in Phase 2.
If the township administrative staff is located on both the first and second floors, has consideration been given to covering for the receptionist when she needs to leave the building, i.e. post office or other errands?
Any necessary staff, duty, or daily workflow changes will be made to ensure the public is served professionally and in a timely manner. Since 3 employees will be on the first floor, coverage is not an issue.
Will the new floor plan accommodate a private bathroom for township staff on the first floor?
As with the current administrative building and most all public buildings, staff and offices within a public building will use the public bathroom facilities. A private staff bathroom is not included on the first floor. However, a second floor bathroom provides an alternative to a less used public bathroom.
Section 9, ADA compliance. Regardless of code, what are the accommodations for handicap accessibility? Are there plans to install an elevator, and if so, what is the cost? Is it included in the Phase 2 estimate?
The building is ADA accessible to the park bathroom, the KURC, and township facilities. Accommodations including ramp with appropriate slope, railing and lighting, flush entry with proper clearance, and accessible first floor. The exterior space including trail easement, parking, sidewalks, picnic areas, bench areas meet ADA accessibility requirements for all areas. There is no plan for an elevator and therefore no cost, as the public meeting and service function will occur on the first floor.
How would current staff access the second floor if they had a broken leg or hip?
That employee would be accommodated on the first floor during recovery.
How would we hire a wheelchair-bound employee if some township space will be on the second floor?
That employee would be accommodated on the first floor.
Section 10, security and exterior. Are there deed or grant restrictions on why the bathroom has general public access and is not restricted to inside use for employees and township and museum visitors only? What security measures will be put in place to ensure the safety of employees?
The grant award included an ADA-compliant public bathroom to serve the public who use the park facility. The grant does not pay for private staff bathrooms. Public users of the bathroom have access to the bathroom from the park entrance. Employees will have access to the bathroom from the inside of the building. Security measures will be addressed as part of a separate contract.
Will the public bathroom remain open during the weekends? Will the general public be restricted from accessing township facilities after hours?
Public will have access to the public restroom during open park hours, including weekends. The general public will be restricted from the rest of the building during non-working hours, as all doors into the building proper will be securely locked.
What is the provision for the external security lighting and alarms? Is the alarm system central station and to which police, fire, emergency will the automatic notification be communicated? What is the impact on our contributions to those non-Pocopson municipal services?
Exterior lighting in the parking lot at building access doors and the handicap ramp is either already installed or will be completed before the occupancy by KURC. The alarm system is in the process of design and will be suitable to the security needs of the building, its contents and employees, and public who will use the building and property. An automatic notification system is planned similar to the existing township building system. There is no new, quote, impact, financial or otherwise, anticipated by installing a security system on the Barnard House that is similar to the emergency service call provisions at the existing township building. The service at the Barnard House will simply replace the current service provided at the existing township building. There is no anticipated cost increase for police, fire, or emergency services related to occupying the Barnard House.
Where will the power generator be placed to ensure the Barnard House is fully operational in the event of a township emergency or disaster?
There will not be a power generator installed in Phase 2 project. The bid documents will reflect the space and available hookups to accommodate such in a future installation. A township emergency disaster resulting in a power outage would require the closing of the township office during that time, as it is the current practice.
Section 11, Kennett Underground Railroad. What is the expected visitor and usage of the KURC room?
Based on Kennett Railroad experience at the History Station, they expect to have 15 to 20 visitors when they are open from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday.
Are there bus tours or other promotions anticipated?
There are no bus tours or other promotions anticipated by KURC at this time.
Are there special events or celebrations planned?
No special event or celebrations are planned for the KRC room.
What is the expected maintenance upkeep cost of the Barnard House that is required because of the KURC room and the visitors?
Kennett Underground Railway will maintain the Kennett Underground Railroad room at very little expense to Kennett Underground Railroad. The lease calls for cleaning of the shared bathroom and foyer space after the weekend use.
How long has Pocopson committed to providing this room to KURC?
The initial term of the KURC Pocopson agreement is 5 years.
What security or insurance risk or cost does Pocopson accept by having the KURC located in Pocopson's Barnard House?
By the agreement, the KURC shall, at its expense, keep all in full force and effect a policy of commercial general liability damage insurance in the minimum amount of $1 million per occurrence and $2 million aggregate limit for bodily injury, including death and fire damage limit of $300,000. The township shall be named as the additional insurer by the KURC's commercial general liability policy, and a certificate of insurance will be issued to the township on an annual basis showing the township listed as the additional insured. Both occupancy by the KURC and the KURC insurance should lessen the risks and costs associated with security and insurance, which is a significant benefit to the township.
Since we're running short of time on this portion, with the board's permission, I'm going to read the following answers to the questions in the interest of
Rock and
time.
roll, go for it.
I'll go for as many as I can do before my voice runs out.
You want the microphones?
No,
All right.
yeah, I guess.
Yes.
General questions. Question: what is the plan for installing the flagpoles and lighting? Answer: flagpole location and installation will be determined when Phase 2 is complete. Question: where will the recycling bins be placed? Answer: on the south side of the tobacco shed. The area is already completed. Question 3: will the Denton Hollow salt shed be moved to the new Barnard House location or to the Route 52 site? Answer: moving of the salt shed from its existing location is not anticipated. Salt storage is a public works storage area and not permitted on the Barnard House property as set forth in the declaration. Question, is the project supported by all Board of Supervisors? Answer, the project has been supported by all boards of supervisors since 2008. The current board majority also supports the project. 5, why have township employees resigned from the committee? Answer, one employee who served to represent staff on the Barnard House Steering Committee resigned in a letter dated June 16, 15. The employee stated in that letter, quote, township employees do not take minutes for any township committee, close quote. No other employees served or resigned from the Barnard House Steering Committee. A Public Works employee was asked to serve on a work group that he recommended, but declined to serve due to personal time constraints. Question, please explain the current ethics investigation with regard to Richard Jensen's work and why it is not a conflict of interest, as defined by law or otherwise, for Richard Jensen to act as a code enforcement officer, project manager, and temporary building inspector, and a member of the committee. Answer, the question was submitted to the Pennsylvania Ethics Commission by the Board of Supervisors. The commission would not give an opinion after the fact, since by commenting on a possible dual role in Phase 2, the commission would in effect be commenting on what had already happened. The commission chose to make no comment. Regardless of any ethics considerations, it is better to keep the two functions separate, as they are usually an, quote, arm's length, close quote, interaction where the builder is a third party and the reviewer is someone hired by the township. The current situation is somewhat unusual because the township is both the builder and reviewer. In general, it is better to keep the roles separate. Because questions were raised, the Board of Supervisors has decided to not have the code enforcement officer also serve as project manager for Phase 2. Question, can the Barnard House project meetings be moved to the evenings so that working taxpayers can attend? Committee meetings are designed to meet the schedules of those volunteers and consultants who serve on the committee. There is ample posted advance notice and public advertisement of committee schedule times for residents to attend if they choose. Any action requiring board approval on a committee recommendation is discussed at the regular evening board meetings. 8, is the committee accepting additional volunteers? The purpose of the steering committee and its construction and finishing work groups during this Phase 2 is to continue to keep the project on budget, on schedule, and completed with quality workmanship in accordance with the contracts. The committee welcomes volunteers who would contribute effectively to that purpose. With the exception of general oversight, the steering committee is essentially at its end role, having the majority of the activities now moving to the Phase 2 construction work group and the finishing work group. Invitations to join the construction and finishing work groups have been made. Those persons have been approved by all supervisors, and those positions are filled. Question, what are the suggestions for improving the project management process going forward? The supervisors will give guidance and requirements for the Phase 2 project manager when that position is filled. The project manager is required to follow the standard practices of the township as they apply to a construction project. Question, what are the suggestions for improving public communication and transparency? Transparency is taken seriously by the Pocopson supervisors. Board minutes and special documents are posted on the website regularly. Special meetings, presentations have been held routinely on important items such as the Barnard House project and the earned income tax. If the new board in January would like to expand or change this policy, they have the right to do so. Suggestions for additional improvement should be made by residents to the new board. The township is moving toward improved electronic communications. The new website is an example of improved communication between the township and its residents. A rough accounting of public communication and transparency on this specific project are as follows. Would the supervisors consider a public survey or referendum to assess public support for the project? The answer is no. A public survey or referendum is not being considered. Facility siting, planning, and construction is authorized by the second-class township code and the municipality's planning code as part of the duties of the Board of Supervisors. Also, Pennsylvania law restricts the use of referendums by municipalities. The majority of supervisors and the Barnard House Steering Committee believe the majority of residents do support this project based on comments at the many public meetings, volunteer work days, at Founders Days, and within the community since 2008. After a 7-year effort, and with the project half completed, supervisors have only recently heard opinions from approximately 15 residents who indicate opposition to completing the project. Why does the board believe the project represents the best use of township residents' taxpayers' dollars? I'm going to ask the chairman to read the answer to this question.
This is the last question that was submitted.
And again, the question is, why does the board believe this project represents the best use of the township residents' tax dollars?
The board majority believes this project is appropriate because the project preserves and repurposes a significant historical resource for less cost than building a new facility on the Barnard House property, or for buying another property and constructing a new building while also paying for maintenance, insurance, etc. on the Barnard House. It utilizes the existing largest township property, suitable for existing and future needs. The space of the Barnard House building and grounds meet the demands for parking and for private meeting space with our code officers, staff, or supervisors. It is not possible to expand the Denton Hollow building and parking to provide the same space the Barnard House offers. The project eliminates safety issues at the Denton Hollow site caused by traffic and public works equipment entering and leaving the property within 4 feet of the entrance and exit doors during operating hours and evening meetings. The Barnard House provides the space for additional staff, files, storage, and township archives that remain in the possession of private citizens. The project removes the noise, traffic, and lighting impacts on nearby residents at the Denton Hollow location. The Barnard House is more accessible and centrally located in the township. It properly recognizes the pride the residents have in the beautiful township they live in. It provides a code-compliant facility where the existing building is not. The completed project will serve the entire community, not just the township staff and supervisors. And finally, it serves to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the entire community for decades to come.
I'd like to thank everyone in the audience for their patience and listening to all these questions and answers. I think it was a little tedious, but it provided a lot of information. I also thank the board members for their answers. Now we're going to move on to the second part of the evening. Were there any cards completed by anyone with questions
Or additional comments?
Yeah, comments.
I think someone's collecting them. If you just give those
There's comments.
to that person.
I thought you said something time we're not going to pay money or something like that.
Since we only have 3 questions at this point, I'm just going to read the question and hopefully someone can provide the answer. We have a question from Lisa Burrell, and forgive me if I mispronounce her name. She indicates she's a township resident residing at 582 Corrine Road. How is the township going to protect residents, including children and pets, from safety issues associated with the recycle area? Will the recycle area be closed at night to prevent dumping? Can any of the board members respond to that?
Are you referring to the existing Denton Hollow or the Barnard House? The new one?
No, at the Barnard House, because it's a public walkway, and kids are on bikes, dogs are walking and running. And in the situation at Denton Hollow is totally different. It's more isolated, and, you know, you go there with a single purpose. But because this is a public area, you know, and everybody knows what happens at recycle sites, people just come in that are non-residents and sometimes do their other trash dumping as well.
Okay.
You know, it's a vermin-related issue as
I
well.
understand. It's becoming a comment rather than a question. Do you have any?
Seriously?
Notes on that?
It was a question.
No, it's a
Yes,
question. It's a question. We're going to try to answer it. Do you have any comment on that?
The one, I don't know if it would be covered. Are you talking about like fencing it? I'm not understanding the question.
Well,
So-
basically, the question is,
Yes, it would be open all the time.
yeah, how are the township residents going to be protected from people using the recycle area? And if we can't answer it this evening...
Yeah, I don't
then
think we can answer that
We'll,
right now.
we'll get an answer, we'll try to get an answer from the township's consultants and post it on the website.
Thank you, Lisa. Good question.
The next question is from Elaine DeMonte, do I have that correct?
Yep, there, yep.
And 6 Tullamore Drive. Actually, 2 questions. When will the balance of questions be answered?
Well, they were all answered. so-
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Will the board consider a referendum, I think we did answer this question, on the November ballot to determine next steps for the Barnard House? I think we answered that question, but I can also add that Pennsylvania election law limits what referendums you can put on ballots. You can't go out to the voters on anything that you want to ask them. It's limited by state law.
So what about a survey, a township survey instead, just to get people's buying and Yes.
I don't know if the board can respond to that now.
I don't think we wish to respond to that one right now.
Okay.
Doesn't fit your agenda.
Next question, and the final question, is from Andrea Goslin, 812 Roberts Way. The Barnard House does not currently meet code requirements. Since the town, we might have answered this, since the township obtained detailed cost estimates for bringing the house into compliance, why can't we also obtain detailed cost estimates for bringing Denton Hollow building into compliance as a legitimate option? I think that was answered more or less, that the initial studies indicated it wasn't worthwhile to do a study.
No, there's no study.
There's no study.
I'm sorry, there has been no formal study. We've heard of general engineering estimates and best practices, but there was no detailed study of the alternative of using the existing building, the way there's been detailed cost estimates of redoing the Barnard House. And I was wondering why that is not a legitimate financial option before we go to resolve this expense.
It's been my understanding for many, many months now that that option was not cost-effective. The business case for it just didn't make sense, and it was just too expensive to either raise a second floor or to put in whatever it was required to make it ADA compliant.
With all due respect, Barney, there is no study to show that it's a bad business case. What you just said is it's your understanding.
I believe
There's
there was
no-
a study, and I'd be happy to provide it for you.
I did a right to know there is.
There has been a right to know
Okay.
request already. There is no study in
All right.
existence.
I'll make sure that we get the information for you, but that's my understanding. Thank you.
There's no study. We should do one.
We have several comments, and I'm going to identify the commenter, the address, and then read the comment. And if that person wants to add anything additional, please step forward and make your comment, and remembering that we want to limit it to 2 minutes. This is from, and your 2 minutes won't be counted for my speaking time. This is from Sean C. Rafferty, 1810 Brooks Road. There are still many unanswered questions here. The only fair resolution is to allow the taxpayers to decide the fate of the project. Please put this on a referendum on the ballot in November. I think we've already responded to that one.
But sir, part
I'm
of
not
that,
sure that it's legally possible. I don't know for sure, though.
Right, but sir, also, the other part of it is, technically, we don't have a quorum that's actually been elected. Only 2 of the board members right now are elected, 1 was appointed. So until you have a quorum that was elected, or you want to let the taxpayers themselves decide, it is wrong to spend, and it's going to probably be over $1 million, because we know how these things usually go, of taxpayer money without the taxpayers having a say. It's just wrong to do that.
Okay, thank you very much. This is Susan Woodward, 430 Locust Grove Road. The township is most fortunate to be in a position to repurpose an historic building while still providing an adequate township building. Is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I think that pretty well states it. Not too many townships have an option like that, and I think we're very fortunate to have this option.
We have a comment from Jean Connery, 1655 Water Glen Drive. If the project does not go to completion, all money spent so far is wasted, and the grants for the Phase 1 effort from the state and KURC may be required to be repaid. For the additional expense of completion, less money than might require repayment, the net cost is about $300,000. Is there anything else you'd like to add, ma'am?
May I respond to Sean? Or is that not?
Well, you can't, I'm sorry, you can't respond to other public comments. You can make your own public comment if you'd like,
I'd
but
like
let me, I'm sorry, are you Jean?
I'm Jean.
Okay, very good.
Barney was appointed per Pennsylvania law when one of our supervisors walked away from the job because of personal reasons. It is my understanding that the Board of Supervisors had 30 days to appoint a replacement. That is state law.
Yeah, I have no doubt that the board is properly constituted. I think the gentleman's comment was that all 3 weren't elected.
Right, exactly.
That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with the board. Carol Hoff, 1923 Marlborough Road. I support the project and believe the Barnard House will work as a township office. The steering team is comprised of honest, thoughtful members, and it is a shame that they are being maligned instead of being treated with respect. Shame on us, and makes our township look bad. Anything you want to add?
I'd like to also add that this project has been going on since 2007, and so it has been approved by many elected supervisors that were in office over the years. And so I think it may be unusual circumstance in how it's been filled this year, but they are also legitimate supervisors.
Next question is, comment is from John O'Neill, 1674 Embryville Road. KURC has been involved with the planning of this project for about 7 years and has committed finances for its furtherance. We feel that such a unique opportunity cannot be lost. Thank you. And I appreciate everybody's handwriting also. I mean, I say that seriously. Thank you. Steve Connery, 1655 Water Glen Drive. There are 2 choices: complete the project or stop. Completing the project will cost about $650,000. Stopping will cost about $350,000 to repay grants, reimburse KURC, and board up the building. I can't read the one word. We'll still be using a non-compliant, too small building. Choice is clear: complete the project. Thank you. Comment from Lisa Burrell, 582 Corrine Road.
It's my second.
What are the plans for the township property on Denton Hollow? Is it for sale? Will it be? I think we answered that question. The answer is we don't know. And here's one from Christopher Conaway. There's no comment. I presume you'd like to make a comment.
I'm gonna bite my tongue.
Okay.
That's fine. We
got half an hour.
Yeah, we have some additional time, so if anybody wants to make a comment that they didn't write on a card, that's fine. Keep in mind that the board's provided a lot of information, and I think most of the items have been addressed. If you'd like to make a comment, we have some time. Okay, seeing none, I think the board appreciates your attendance and cooperation. Thank you.